In the deep recesses of ancient times, before the great flood washed away the sins of a fallen world, there existed beings of extraordinary power and stature, beings known as the Nephilim. These giants, whose origins are shrouded in mystery, have captivated the imaginations of countless generations. Their story is one of divine beings, human women, and the catastrophic consequences of their union. This is the untold story of the Nephilim, a tale that begins in the heavenly realms and descends to the very depths of earthly corruption. The story of the Nephilim begins in the celestial courts of heaven, where the sons of God held their divine appointments. These beings, often identified as angels, were tasked with watching over and guiding the affairs of humanity. Among them were a group known as the Watchers, entrusted with the responsibility of observing the human world and ensuring its order and harmony. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text, provides a detailed account of these Watchers. According to Enoch, 200 of these celestial beings, led by a powerful angel named Semyaza, descended to earth. Their initial intent was to monitor humanity, but their mission soon took a fateful turn. As they observed the daughters of men, they were struck by their beauty and grace. The Watchers, who had previously remained aloof from human affairs, found themselves captivated and longing for human companionship. Semyaza, their leader, voiced his desire to take human wives and father children, but he feared the repercussions of such a transgression. Despite his reservations, Semyaza's words resonated with the other Watchers, and they vowed to follow him, binding themselves by an oath to share in the consequences of their actions. This decision marked the beginning of an unprecedented event in human history, the union of divine beings with mortal women. The descent of the Watchers and their union with human women is briefly mentioned in Genesis 6. 1-2. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. This passage, though brief, signifies a profound and forbidden mingling of the heavenly and the earthly. The Watchers, now bound to their oath, took human wives and fathered a race of hybrid beings known as the Nephilim. These offspring, inheriting the divine attributes of their fathers and the human traits of their mothers, grew to be giants, both in physical stature and in their influence on the world. The Nephilim were described as heroes of old, men of renown, Genesis 6:4. They possessed extraordinary strength, intelligence, and abilities that set them apart from ordinary humans. As they grew, so did their impact on the world. They became leaders, warriors and rulers, often revered and feared by the people around them. However, the presence of the Nephilim also brought about significant and catastrophic changes. Their immense power and influence led to widespread corruption and moral decay. The Watchers, who were meant to guide humanity, now found themselves contributing to its downfall. The Nephilim, using their superior abilities, dominated and oppressed those around them, leading to an era of violence and chaos. The actions of the Watchers and the rise of the Nephilim did not go unnoticed by the higher realms. The corruption and chaos they brought about grieved God deeply. The earth, once a place of harmony and divine order, had become a breeding ground for wickedness and violence. In response to this unprecedented rebellion, God decided to intervene. According to the Book of Enoch, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel were dispatched to address the situation. Their mission was to confront the Watchers, bind them, and cleanse the earth of the Nephilim's influence. Michael, the leader of the heavenly host, confronted Semyaza and his followers. The Watchers, now fully aware of the consequences of their actions, pleaded for mercy. However, their pleas fell on deaf ears. The archangels, executing divine judgment, bound the Watchers in chains and cast them into the depths of the earth, where they would remain until the final judgment. Gabriel was tasked with the destruction of the Nephilim. The mighty giants who had once roamed the earth with impunity were now hunted and eradicated. The devastation brought upon by their existence was immense, and their eradication marked a significant turning point in the divine plan for humanity. Despite the efforts to cleanse the earth, the corruption had spread too far and too deep. Humanity, influenced by the Nephilim and the Watchers, had descended into unparalleled wickedness. Genesis 6, 5, 7 captures God's sorrow and resolve. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, "I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." In the midst of this corruption, Noah, a man righteous in his generation, found favor in God's eyes. He was chosen to build an ark to preserve his family and pairs of every living creature from the impending deluge. The construction of the ark was an act of faith and obedience, marking a new covenant between God and humanity. As the rains began to fall and the floodwaters rose, the antediluvian world was engulfed. The Nephilim, along with all other living beings outside the ark, perished in the waters. This cataclysmic event, as recounted in Genesis 7, was not just a physical cleansing, but a divine reset, aimed at purging the earth of its iniquities and offering a fresh start for humanity. The flood narrative underscores the severity of the corruption brought about by the intermingling of the sons of God and humans. It also highlights God's justice tempered with mercy, as Noah and his family emerged from the ark to repopulate the earth, tasked with the solemn duty of upholding righteousness in the new world. The Great Flood was meant to cleanse the earth of its corruption and offer a fresh start for humanity. However, as Noah's descendants began to repopulate the earth, traces of the pre-flood era's corruption re-emerged. Evidence of giants in the post-flood world appears in several biblical texts, raising intriguing questions about the survival or re-emergence of the Nephilim. Numbers 13:33 recounts the report of the Israelite spies who explored Canaan. "We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." This passage indicates that the Nephilim, or beings of similar stature and reputation, were present in the land of Canaan long after the flood. Further references to giants appear in Deuteronomy 3:11, describing King Og of Bashan, a remnant of the Rephaim. For only Og, king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. His bed was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. The sheer size of Og's bed reflects his enormous stature, aligning with the descriptions of the Nephilim and suggesting that such beings persisted in the post-flood era. These references raise intriguing questions about the survival or re-emergence of the giants. If the Nephilim were indeed wiped out by the flood, how did similar beings appear in later times? One possibility is that the sons of God resumed their interactions with humans, leading to the birth of a new generation of giants. Another theory posits that some Nephilim survived the flood through extraordinary means, such as divine intervention or taking refuge in remote, unaffected areas. The presence of giants in the post-flood world signifies that the struggle between divine order and celestial rebellion continued. These beings, often associated with opposition to God's chosen people, played significant roles in the biblical narratives of conquest and deliverance, symbolizing the enduring battle between good and evil. The story of the Nephilim, though ancient, has left a lasting legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire. These giants, born of divine rebellion and human interaction, symbolize the complex relationship between the heavenly and earthly realms. Their existence and actions serve as a powerful reminder of the consequences of crossing divine boundaries and the ongoing struggle between order and chaos. The Book of Enoch and other ancient writings provide further insight into the story of the Nephilim and their fathers, the Watchers. According to Enoch, the spirits of the Nephilim, after their physical destruction, became disembodied entities. These spirits, often associated with evil spirits and demonic forces, continued to influence the world in unseen ways. This notion ties into New Testament references to spiritual warfare, where believers are called to stand against the forces of darkness. The legacy of the Nephilim also extends to modern interpretations and theories. Some suggest that remnants of their genetic heritage might persist in certain individuals, explaining extraordinary physical or intellectual abilities. While this idea is speculative and lacks scientific evidence, it continues to fascinate those exploring the intersection of biblical history and genetics. Furthermore, reports of giant skeletons, mysterious archaeological findings, and folklore about enormous beings contribute to the enduring legend of the Nephilim. These stories, though often anecdotal and lacking concrete proof, keep the mystery alive and invite ongoing exploration and speculation. The Apostle Peter refers to the fallen angels in 2 Peter 2:4. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment, emphasizing the severity of their transgression and the certainty of divine justice. Jude 1:6 similarly highlights the fate of these beings, and the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. These passages reinforce the notion that the sons of God, though powerful, were ultimately subject to God's authority and judgment. The spiritual dimension of their story resonates in contemporary discussions of spiritual warfare. Believers are called to remain vigilant and discerning, aware of the unseen forces that seek to oppose and undermine their faith. The sons of God and their legacy serve as a sobering reminder of the consequences of rebellion and the enduring need for faithfulness and obedience to God. The mystery of the Nephilim and their potential presence in the modern world continues to captivate the imagination. While the Bible does not provide explicit evidence of their continued existence, various interpretations and theories suggest that their influence might still be felt. One perspective posits that the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, as described in the Book of Enoch, continue to roam the earth. These spirits, often linked to evil forces and demonic entities, might still interact with humanity in subtle and insidious ways. The New Testament warns of spiritual deception and false prophets, which some interpret as the ongoing activity of these ancient beings. Others suggest that the genetic legacy of the Nephilim might persist in humanity. This theory posits that remnants of their DNA could still be present in certain individuals, potentially explaining extraordinary physical or intellectual abilities. While this idea is speculative and lacks scientific evidence, it continues to intrigue those who explore the intersection of biblical history and genetics. Modern encounters with supposed giants or supernatural beings often draw connections to the ancient Nephilim. Reports of giant skeletons, mysterious archaeological findings, and folklore about enormous beings keep the legend alive. These stories, while often anecdotal and lacking concrete proof, contribute to the enduring fascination with the sons of God and their offspring. Furthermore, some fringe theories suggest that advanced ancient civilizations, often attributed to alien influences, could be linked to Nephilim. Proponents of these theories argue that ancient texts and monuments, such as the pyramids and other megalithic structures, indicate a knowledge and technology beyond what was conventionally available to early human societies. While mainstream science rejects these theories, they persist in popular culture and speculative fiction, adding to the mystique of the Nephilim. The untold story of the Nephilim is a rich and complex narrative that spans from the celestial realms to the depths of earthly corruption. These giants, born of the forbidden union between the sons of God and human women, left an indelible mark on the world. Their existence and actions contributed to the moral decay that prompted the Great Flood, a divine reset aimed at purging the earth of its iniquities. After the flood, traces of the Nephilim and their influence re-emerged, raising questions about their survival and continued presence. The legacy of these beings, both physical and spiritual, continues to intrigue and inspire exploration and speculation. As we reflect on the story of the Nephilim, we are reminded of the profound and often unseen forces that shape our world. Their narrative serves as a powerful reminder of the ongoing battle between divine order and rebellion, and the enduring need for faithfulness and obedience to God. Whether viewed through the lens of historical inquiry, spiritual reflection, or speculative exploration, the mystery of the Nephilim invites us to ponder the complexities and wonders of biblical history.